Hey, Mitch.
Oh, hey, Ed, how are you?
I'm not Ed. I'm Batman.
Right, Batman. So what are we doing?
No, Batman.
Yeah, I know you said that already. What are we talking about tonight?
No, we're talking about Batman, 1989. Batman.
Oh, Batman 89. I love that with Michael Keaton. I got so much memorabilia upstairs. Let me go get it.
No. Don't move. Don't move. How much do you weigh?
About 108.
100. Really? That little? Okay, hold on. I've got an idea. Ready? That's never happened to me before.
Bet you said that a lot. Why don't we
Let's just start the
show?
show. Hi, this is Ed Dollister.
And this is Mitch Halleck.
And welcome to another episode of Mitch and Ed's Excellent Adventure. If it's your first time here, welcome. If you're one of our many subscribers, thank you for coming back. Guess what, Mitch? We've got 349 subscribers. We're just that one off.
Yeah, we need that one more. And you know what? You could be that lucky person if you're not subscribed by just simply hitting the button. It's like firing up the bat signal and boom, you will be notified every time Ed and I get in the car and zoom off for another excellent adventure into movies, TV, toys, and more right here on the old YouTube. What are we talking about today, my friend?
We're talking about Batman today, but in particular, Batman 1989, the groundbreaking 1989 superhero movie. We're going to be talking a little bit about how it came to be, who was in it, its legacy, some of the merchandise. We've sort of spoke a little bit already about Batman 89 indirectly, and I'll put a link up there where you can watch Mitch eat some 1989
oh yeah
cereal.
My stomach's, yeah, I forgot about that. I was like, wait, when? Oh yeah, that nasty cereal back there. Yeah.
That's right. I think we did that for our, was that for our 100th subscriber or
we should have saved it for our 10 millionth subscriber. It was something else. But I'll tell you what.
Yes.
I'm just thinking back of all the stuff. I remember being in the 70s and the 80s, and Batman was a fixture on television around here. It was the old Adam West show.
Yep.
And then there was a bunch of cartoons, and we've covered that in our Super Friends stuff when we talk about the 70s and the Batman TV show. But the only live action Batman prior to 1989 was when Adam West and Burt Ward reprised their roles in those two horrible NBC TV superhero specials in the 70s. Yes. But from then till 1989, there was no such thing as a live action Batman.
Oh. And I suppose we have to thank for the genesis of a new Batman film, really, Superman the movie. And it, I think it is the gold standard of all superhero movies, and really that spurred an interest in creating a Batman movie. And I know Tom Mankiewicz, who worked on Superman the movie, was in early development of a Batman script that they were looking at. They were looking at getting an unknown perhaps to play Batman with David Niven as Alfred. I think they were looking at William Holden as Commissioner Gordon. They were looking at all these interesting casting choices, which never came to be. But the script did remain in development for many years and into the 1980s, which is when Tim Burton was attached to it.
Yeah, what the funny thing is the property of Batman was lying around for years, and it was Michael Uslan who picked up the rights to it for almost not a lot of money, because you're right, it was the Superman success, the movie with Christopher Reeve, that suddenly started people thinking about it. So Uslan and his partner, I can't think of his name right now, but we'll pop it up right here. I think he just passed away. I'm going to say Mesner, maybe that's his last name. They acquired the rights to Batman and Swamp Thing too, actually. And they said, let's try to make a live action Batman film. That's why when you watch any Batman animated show or movie, whatever, TV series like Gotham or now the Batman movies, you'll always see Michael Uslan's name come up as executive producer because he owns the rights to the Batman series. But yeah, they said, let's make this big screen Batman movie. And the Superman movies were the model that they were going for because they were successful. But then what happened is mid 80s, they stumbled with Superman 3, Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. None of these were successful like the first ones, 1 and 2. And then maybe the bloom was off the rose, and people weren't really looking forward to making any big budget superhero movies because it just wasn't in the public domain. Nobody wanted to see that.
Yeah.
It wasn't something.
It's not like today where every second
No.
film is a superhero film. So
No, and it wasn't actually until a comic book came out in the mid 80s that totally revolutionized the whole idea of Batman and superheroes too. It was by author Frank Miller, who was the writer and artist on a book called The Dark Knight Returns. And that was about a more grizzled, older Batman who comes out of retirement. Basically, the Gotham City is just a hellhole. Crime is everywhere. The government doesn't care. Superman has become a puppet of the Reagan administration type of patriotic symbolism. And Batman just has had enough. The Joker breaks free, and there's this gang called the Mutants. They're running wild through Gotham, and there's just lawlessness everywhere. And Batman comes out of retirement. There's a new Robin, who's a young girl this time, as opposed to his young, youthful ward. We find out that Batman had lost Robin somewhere along the line. One of the Robins, Dick Grayson, or one of the other ones there. So he's more of a Clint Eastwood character. He's more serious. He's not jokey. He's not about bat copters and bat cycles and bat boats and all that stuff is out the window.
And shark repellent.
Yeah, no, none of that. This is about a real, grim and dark night, hence the name. And that's what they used when they said, we're going to make this new Batman movie when Tim Burton came, because all everyone thought about was the campy Adam West TV series. I mean, as popular as that show was, it really did a disservice to the character of Batman for at least 20 years, because all people thought of was that clown, the guy in the goofy tights and the shiny, pants there and the little Bat-Tusi type of thing. I mean, it was kitschy. It was campy. It was of its time in the 60s, but I don't think that movie would have made $1 if they put that on the big screen.
No, well, when you look at the other equivalents, when we've spoken about Doc Savage, which was reasonably big budget, a superhero, I suppose you'd call it, movie, but that was campy, and it that sort of, I think after once Star Wars came along, and you look at those movies from the 70s, Godfather, Apocalypse Now, The Deer Hunter, I think people were looking for something a little bit more grounded and a little bit more real. And even Star Wars, it wasn't all shiny, was it? It was all, it was used, that used universe.
Yeah, and then it didn't set anyone's mind at ease when they announced the casting choice was going to be Michael Keaton, who at that time was only known for movies like Mr. Mom and The Dream Team and Night Shift. I mean, he was a comedic actor. He was a stand-up comedian as well. He'd be on like David Letterman, and he would do some shtick. So the whole idea that this kind of short, balding, really gawky actor is going to suddenly become this brooding superhero was not what people thought of when they thought of Batman. So that didn't help at all. If the internet was alive back then, if there was such a thing, it would have blown up with the casting choice of Michael Keaton. As it is, just word through the general media, you'd hear it at comic book conventions, people would talk about it at comic book shops. No one was happy with that casting choice.
Well, I know that there was a letter writing campaign that people sent in saying this can't be wrong, and I believe they they even got Bob Kane on board to sort of help quell the disdain of Michael Keaton, but they weren't really happy either with Tim Burton, because Tim Burton up to that point, he was attached a few years earlier, but he wasn't given the go-ahead to do it because he hadn't had a hit, really. He had done Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Obviously, there was Beetlejuice, which he and Keaton teamed together. But, that didn't bode well for fans either, because they think Pee-wee's
that's all I knew him as. I remember, I remember seeing Pee-wee's Big Adventure. It was a great movie, hysterical, funny, but that's all I could think of. I was like, I don't know about this, So.
They were concerned. There was a lot of concerns. They were concerned with Danny Elfman. Was he able to write the score? Even Danny Elfman was concerned, because that was his first big budget movie, and would he be able to do it? So there were a lot of trepidation, when it comes to creating this film, and also because it's such a beloved character, and has been around even at that point for how many, 50?
Well, it was going on for its 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they wanted to be something spectacular when it came out because Batman started out in 1939. They were headed up for 1989, 50th anniversary. There was going to be postage stamps. Everybody
Yep.
was getting ready for this big Batman event. And that was the culmination when the movie premiered. The other thing that set everybody probably calmed their nerves, I'd say, was the casting of Jack Nicholson, who at the time was probably the biggest star on the planet. I mean, you had him from Cuckoo's Nest, and then Terms of Endearment. I mean, he was just everywhere. And when they said that he was going to play the Joker, that kind of calmed people's nerves. They were like, well, okay, maybe it won't be so bad because he's not known to be like Cesar Romero wackiness. I mean, it's Jack Nicholson. Looks like the devil himself. So maybe that'll calm people down. But there was also some other casting folks. You had Billy D. Williams, who you and I both know as Lando Calrissian.
Yes.
And he was going to be Harvey Dent, and fans of the comic book knew that he was eventually going to become Two-Face.
Unfortunately, he didn't. They got Tommy Lee Jones for the sequel, but I do remember in an interview, they had a press interview with Billy D. Williams at the time of the movie, and he was going, look, these are the most amazing, he's had an amazing time, and these are the most amazing sets I've ever been on. And I've been on a Star Wars, I was in Star Wars, and I felt a little betrayed.
Yeah.
I feel a bit, I actually feel a bit betrayed by Batman, but I'll talk a bit later.
Okay, the other thing was Sean Young was cast. Now, I knew Sean Young. She was Rachel in the Blade Runner movie. And then, of course, she was also in No Way Out with Kevin Costner. She was a big thing back then. There was a comedy movie she did with John Candy. It was Soap Dish, or that might be Demi Moore. I just know.
No, that's Sally Field was Soap Dish, and Robert
Sean
Downey
Young. Well, she was just everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, Sean Young was like every year there was a new movie and she was in it. So she was cast as Vicky Vale, the female lead in the movie, and they were rehearsing for the Batman film, and there was going to be a sequence where they're on horseback around Wayne Manor and they're attacked by the Joker's goons, and they escape. But she fell off the horse, and I do believe she might have broke her pelvic bone or fractured.
I think a collarbone.
Collarbone, yeah. She was laid up for a while, but they had production starting soon, and they couldn't hold up anymore because they had to meet their date, the premiere date in June of '89. So they ended up casting Kim Basinger, who was also a very big starlet at the time in the late '80s. There, she was in that James Bond movie. That's the first time I remember seeing her. Was the Sean Connery Never Say Never Again.
Yep.
But 9.5 Weeks with Mickey Rourke was the big movie that everybody knew her from at the time. So again, now you've got this stellar cast: Billy D. Williams, Kim Basinger,
Jack
Palance too. Another, I don't know, City Slickers. I don't think that was
that was 91, I think.
Yeah, but everybody knew Jack Palance though because he'd been around forever.
Yes,
he's always been a very scary looking fellow.
Pat Hingle. You had
Pat Hingle's Commissioner Gordon.
Yes, yeah. Robert Wall, your friend.
Yeah, my friend Robert Wall, who was at Terrificon 2 years ago. Comedian, was also cast as Alexander Knox. Our good friend William Hootkins from Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark fame was also in that movie. It had a great cast.
Garrick Hagan, who was Biggs Darklighter, was in it.
What was he?
He played a tourist family at the start, one of the father of these.
That was tourists. Him?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that's him. That's Wedge, not Wedge. That's
Biggs.
Biggs. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. The dad is Biggs.
Yeah.
I never knew that all these years. You know what the weird thing is? I had heard that they wanted Adam West to play that part as a cameo, but he refused to do it. But originally they were trying to get Adam West to show up.
I did hear that because I felt like from what I've read is that he was he assumed they'd cast him as Batman.
Yeah, well, that was, I don't know what he was thinking, because at the time he had to be in his late 50s probably.
He would, well, least. You know what? He actually probably was, I suppose then, when you look at movie stars of that age and they're a lot younger then, but they look a lot older, whereas I think we're a bit more age accepting here.
Nowadays.
So, well, look at Indiana Jones, he's
gonna be 80. Yeah.
So
but no, we're and Michael Gough Is that how you
Goff.
pronounce his name?
I call it Michael
Goff.
Goff, but
Well, he's not here to correct us. He's no longer with us, but he was cast as Alfred, Bruce Wayne's faithful butler and servant. And I do believe, I think I've got to go back. I know they were talking about having a Robin in the movie, but they'll save that for Batman Returns, which is the sequel.
I did hear that they were interested in Kiefer Sutherland as playing Robin.
Oh, I've never heard that one before.
Yeah, so I mean, they did cast it was the casting for Batman. Everyone was asked. I was reading this morning that Harrison Ford was even.
Oh, come on!
In the, I did read that. Whether it's IMDb, so you never know whether it's accurate or not.
No, anybody could write on IMDb. And I was going to say Jack Nicholson brought his friend Tracy Walters to play Bob the Goon.
That's right.
It was weird. It's like he has that much star power.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring my buddy in. Oh, okay, whatever you want, Jack.
Well, he was sort of like his casting was akin to Marlon Brando. And giving some legitimacy to the actual
to the movie.
The project.
I remember even seeing the movie posters and it said like Keaton and Nicholson, or maybe it even said Nicholson.
No, he did have to have top billing.
Oh, it was Nicholson?
Yeah.
Wow, yeah, because I remember the poster. I remember the funny thing is when the poster came out, I knew it immediately as the Batman logo that was on his chest, and you could see it there. I remember people were confused. They didn't see the bat. They saw the negative image. Somebody said they thought it was like a mouth, like Jaws, like a weird buck tooth. I mean, how do you see a mouth in this?
I suppose if it's really, because you didn't see, I don't think you saw the whole logo. You saw it sort of like
cropped,
a bit cropped.
Yeah.
But today, I mean, that film had a marketing blitz when it came out. And I remember at the time they called it Batmania. This was,
yes, they did.
It was everywhere.
You couldn't go down a street without seeing 20 kids wearing a Batman logo t-shirt. It was crazy. Yes. And my friend Jerry Ordway, the comic book artist who also did the adaptation of the 89 Batman film, he got to go to London to go see the sets because they would take photographs and he would use them to draw the things, because he had to get sign-offs from all the actors on their likenesses.
Wow.
So it had to look like Nicholson, it had to look like Keaton. So Jerry got a lot of firsthand sightseeing. I don't know what you want to call it, but he said the same thing that Billy D. Williams said. It was insane how big these sets were. I mean, the stairs of the Gotham City Town Hall, which you see a couple times in the movie, like for the big fight scene, and then they have the mayor there. And I think they even use it in the opening when the Joker shows up to kill one of the bad guys with a poison pen. I mean, we're talking a full scale staircase and town hall set. So, I mean, it's a lot there. The Batcave. I don't know where that castle is. I think that's somewhere in England. The one they use for Wayne Manor.
Yep. Yeah, I'm not too sure. They did have a combination of real sets. They had some really nice matte paintings as well.
They did, in
there. So it was it was still 1989. It was a time where they hadn't really started digital effects at that point.
No, you know what's weird though? I remember talking to Ordway about it. He was there on the set like in November of 1988, which is nuts now when you think about it, because I know how they make movies years ahead of time.
Yep.
But I don't know what it was. I mean, maybe because we're used to the weird Star Wars schedule, like it's 3 years to make a movie. I mean, here it was in the fall and winter of 88.
Yep.
And the movie's going to come out in June of 89, which was only less than a year away. And they were just still putting it together. It just seems amazing to me that they had such a fast schedule, a shooting schedule, and they can get this Batman 89 movie out so quickly.
Well, I do remember reading that Jack Nicholson stipulated in his contract he had a certain amount of time where he had he had to start late, 10 o'clock in the morning, and he had a certain window he had to appear in. So I suppose once everything's locked in, and I think it came in, it went a little bit, it went over budget. I know it went over budget, but it was finished on time. So
yeah, it was. It was. And they, like I said, they were off schedule a little bit with the Sean Young accident when they got Kim Basinger to come in there. But I think it moved pretty quickly because, I mean, now that I think about it, there are a couple set effects, the whole Gotham Tower and then the balloons and the Batmobile and all that stuff. But I mean, if you add it up, I don't think it's that many practical or special effects in the movie. Most of it's done practical.
Yeah,
Just
and I
stunt
think they
work.
can hide a lot in the dark. I know
Yeah.
that at the time, people complained when they went
It was
the-
so
like
dark.
it was so dark
Yeah.
they couldn't see
No,
anything.
no, I remember seeing it in the theater. You had to squint a couple times to make out,
Yeah.
some of the scenery, and you're like, was it a bad projector bulb or no? They're like, no,
Yes.
it was very just dark on the screen, and you're like, what's going on? I can't
Yeah.
see anything. It
We
hides a
mentioned
lot.
yes, yeah, well, that's true. That's true. And that's why it's funny looking at the I know on the I don't know if it was the DVD release or the VHS release, they
4K
actually had to
Blu-ray, yeah.
brighten it up a little
Yeah,
bit for
no,
home video.
I remember the home video. I had the VHS tape. And then when I got the 30th anniversary, I think came out a year or so ago. Yeah, in 2019, they did a nice, clean Blu-ray digital version with it and all that stuff. It looked much nicer and sharper, and you could
Yep.
see a lot more. I was like, oh wow, I never noticed all that. Like, you could see the texture on the Joker's suits
Yes.
and the stitching on it and all that. Because you're right, years ago it was just very muddy looking. You know what I'm going to tell you now that you'll be surprised. My friend Jerry Ordway again told me that William Hookins' voice is dubbed in a scene, which I didn't realize it because, like I said, Hookins is the chubbier actor who was in
Hawkins,
Raiders and Porkins from Star Wars.
Musgrove.
Yeah, Colonel Musgrove or Porkins in Star Wars.
Yeah.
But there's that scene where he meets Jack Nicholson's character, and they're in the alleyway, and he's like, "Oh, where are you? Spending your nights, Jack?" And I did think his voice sounded kind of garbled and gravelly.
Yep.
And Jerry said, well, yeah, that's not his voice. They dubbed it. And I'm like, well, I've never been able to verify if that's true or not, but it definitely did not sound like the same actor's voice who was in Raiders and all that stuff. So I don't know why they would do that, but it is
Look,
what it is.
sometimes things aren't clear. They have to do that. They couldn't get him back, maybe if they did, or I think they did all their the post-production work in the UK, because I know Danny Elfman was saying that he wasn't really happy with the way that his score was presented, because it was all a bit buried under the sound effects and dialogue.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting film as well, because it's one of the first films to have two soundtracks. You had the Danny Elfman score, and then they brought on Prince. And they were originally going to have Prince doing all of Joker's music, and then Michael Jackson was going to do all of Batman's or the romantic music out of it, pop songs, but that fell through. So Prince got to do it, and I know Tim Burton wasn't exactly enamored with the idea of having this score. He felt that they didn't really fit, and I would say it's an odd choice. I remember but it's a product of its time, I suppose.
Well, no, and the funnier thing is I never understood what the big deal was about Prince, because there was a music video, there was the Bat Dance, he was all over it. And it was all over MTV. They never stopped showing it. But the thing is, you could only hear two Prince songs in the movie that I always remember. In the beginning, very briefly, as they're showing old Gotham City, as the tourists are about to get mugged, you see somebody walk by with like a boombox, and you hear "I've Seen the Future," and that's a Prince song, but it's like a sampling. That's it. And then the other one is when the Joker breaks into, I think it's
the
when
gallery,
the museum, the art gallery, and they do that whole Joker theme song. And now I do at the parade when he comes in, they're playing it. The Prince song's playing. And he's like, "Yay, who do you trust? The Joker, blah blah blah." That's it. But that was the whole soundtrack. Was there, I think, a romance song on the end credits? That was another Prince song that they put in there. Because where do you have enough content for a full album?
Well, I think they had songs, inspired by, that famous.
Oh, that thing, yeah. But that was a huge seller. That was like millions of copies.
Oh, yeah, sold. And the original score, and I really loved Danny Elfman's score. And again, I feel like that was a gold standard for dark brooding style heroes. John Williams was for the the really bright and that and patriotic, and this was for the dark and brooding. And I know they tried it with they certainly, when Danny Elfman did the year later the Dick Tracy soundtrack, the opening Dick Tracy's theme sounds very Batman-esque. The Shadow does
back there, Mondo Records reissued it for the 30th anniversary, the whole Danny Elfman soundtrack, and they did a special pressing, and it's got a purple vinyl to it and all that too. But it's got the full soundtrack and a lot of deleted. This happens a lot. The composer will make music for scenes that either get cut for editing purposes or they're just shortened when you see the final film, but there's a whole musical score that goes on. So that's actually a pretty good album there. You can listen to it because there was a weird soundtrack history to this because I bought the soundtrack on CD years later. I remember to have the bat plane
with the moon. Yes,
with the moon. That was the album, but it didn't have all the songs. I was like, wait, where's the big? It was very choppy. So I think they did 2 back then as well. But and then I was gonna say with this movie, the trailer for it. Oh my God! I remember they premiered it on Entertainment Tonight, and I taped it on my VCR. And I must have watched that thing a zillion times because it was now that I think about it, there was like no music score for it. It was just a bunch of scenes, maybe 90 seconds. And you saw the Batmobile and you saw some quick cuts of the actors' faces, and that was it. But that trailer just set the world on fire because I remember going into the movie theaters, just getting a ticket and running into a screening of whatever was playing just to see if the Batman trailer was showing. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have the internet, so that's the only way we really could see trailers.
That's right. Well, the reason that it was just hastily chopped together scenes is because after all that bad press and that murmur about Michael Keaton, they thought, oh my gosh, we better get something out there to allay people's fears to do it. And it absolutely worked. It was a huge success. Look, 1989 was such a great year for movies. We had Ghostbusters 2, Star Trek,
Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Jones, the Last Crusade, and
Star Trek 5.
Yes, and that's why I feel a bit guilty about Batman because Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, the last Indiana Jones movie, I thought at that point, for a little while, it came out, it broke the opening weekend record of 37 million. Batman comes along a little while later, 40 million, and then. The domestic champ for that year was Batman. It was the highest grossing film. However, Indiana Jones: The Last Crusade was the worldwide. It beat out Batman. So that's kind of good.
Well, it's funny that happened because years later in 2008, once again, Indiana Jones came back to the big screen. And who did he have to go against? Was the Dark Knight. Yeah. And this time it's Batman with the Joker again. Yeah. Except it was Heath Ledger. And the third movie in that little race to the box office was Marvel's Iron Man.
Yes.
But worldwide, I think The Dark Knight made $1 billion, but Indy came in second with the Crystal Skull back in 2008.
Okay.
That's the thing. The side one, this is the reissue of it. Danny Elfman's on the first side. And then the second side is all the Prince thing. And yes, there was a love theme. It's the love theme to Batman, the Charge of the Batmobile, the Final Countdown, Batman, Beautiful Dreamer. Oh, that's the song that's playing when Jack Nicholson's there. Scandalous is the Prince song.
Okay, anyway. That does sound vaguely familiar.
Oh, well, I just, you're right. When you look at the credits for the movie, starring Jack Nicholson, Michael Keaton, Kim Basinger, Goober, Peter's Company, Tim Burton. Then it says Batman.
Yes.
Robert Wall, Pat Hingle, Billy D. Williams, Michael Gough,
Jerry Hall,
and Jack Palance. No, it doesn't. Jerry Hall's not listed on this.
Okay.
As we all know her as Mick Jagger's girlfriend. I forgot she was in the movie too. Yes, Jerry Hall was in this movie.
Yep, and from the film clip "Let's Stick Together" with Brian Ferry. So.
Like, don't pay the ferryman, Brian Ferry?
No, that's Krista Berg. Anyway, let's not go down that path or the river Styx. Let's talk about the merchandise. You said that, you couldn't go anywhere without hitting Batman. It was on the radios, it was on the TV, on your t-shirt.
It was everywhere.
I had a stack of Batman stuff, but I've sold it all. The only 2 things I've left my Batman here. Oh, that looks good.
No, I was just looking at because I've never played it. Look, half of it's purple. That's the Prince stuff, and the other half's the Danny Elfman.
You know what it looks like? A Pokeball.
Oh, Pokemon.
Yeah.
Batman. Batman.
So I've got two figures. The rest I've sold. This one here. Here we go. This is exciting. Ready?
Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
It's
mine.
so
Here's mine
realistic.
right there. It's a little reissue. Look at
yeah.
that. It looks just like it's about the same height as Michael Keaton too. He's a little guy.
And this one, which has still got my the sales sticker from Retro Archaeology there. This is actually you can take off.
Take off. We're doing the Great White North now.
We can take off his
Taking off his bat pants.
It's tied on, but basically that's Michael Keaton under there, so you could actually remove his.
Oh yeah, look at that.
His helmet. No, it's
Michael
not.
Keaton.
It's a bit blurry, but anyway, that's all I've got.
Crazy. It was crazy. The merchandise was nuts. The T-shirts were everywhere. I actually got to see the movie. We didn't talk about seeing the movie.
No.
Here's what I did. There was a radio contest for WPLR, which I'm now on WPLR. Weird how life turns out. But anyway, back then they had a contest. You had to go to a local bar and dress up as a Batman character. And if you won the contest, you got to get 2 tickets to go see the world premiere of the Batman movie before it opened. It was like 2 days before or a week before. So I dressed up as the Joker. I had a white face. I had green construction paper. I cut it up and I stapled it to my Indiana Jones fedora on the inside and made like a wig. And that was my look. And I just had a trench coat because I didn't have any purple clothing.
Were you arrested after on the way to that?
As a flasher. So I had nothing on underneath. I won the 2 tickets, but because I'm, kind of a scoundrel, I worked at a copy center and color copies were new. So I can confess this now. What? I made color copies of the passes, double-sided on a good heavy stock, and I scuffed them up. They looked legit. And I even did the serial numbers on the bottom. Okay, there was probably only about 300 seats in that theater. And I made a little bit too many tickets that were not real. So when I went there that night, I had my real tickets. I feel terrible about this. So we went early because I said, let's go early because I knew what was going to happen. There was more tickets than there were seats. So sorry.
Who did you give these tickets to?
I gave them out to people. They gave them to friends, and there might have been some money exchange here and there. It is what it is. I'm sure those people, I'm sure they got to see Batman eventually.
Did anyone follow up why you couldn't get in, or why they couldn't get in?
I heard the ushers trying to figure out what was going on because people had bootleg counterfeit tickets to the Batman premiere, and I was like, oh, that's terrible. I shouldn't be telling people this, but it happened. I'm very sorry. There's a place in Batman hell for me, but I got to see the movie with my friends a week before anybody else. I'm feeling bad. I really do.
No wonder you could afford all that Batman merchandise from all those bootleg tickets.
I saw the movie, and then of course, it is what it is. And I do remember on my birthday that year, I'm going to change the subject. Okay. We got to go. I always pick a movie. And of course, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade was playing, but just like you, I was a little disheartened knowing that it was the last Indiana Jones movie. Yep. So it was bittersweet. And I remember going to the movies. I had my wife, Sharon, and her friend Maggie was there. And I said, hey, what do you want to go see? Indiana Jones or Batman? And believe it or not, Maggie picked. She was like, can we go see Batman? Because Indiana Jones is kind of depressing because it's all over. And I'm like, I know. So we ended up seeing Batman on my my birthday instead of Indy. What do you want, man? It's not my fault.
I'm finding out that you're you were the Lando Calrissian scoundrel in your youth.
Look at this cool bat thing that I have.
Yeah. Well, that's like
yes. I'm going to change the subject. So
here, now it works.
Yeah, well, now it works. But no, what I was going to say about the movie is, yes, the movie adaptation that I alluded to before, we'll show a picture of it. There was 2 versions. There was a newsstand version, and then there was a comic book version, both covers done by my buddy Jerry Ordway. It was one of the biggest selling movie adaptations of its time. Anything with the Batman name on it, basically, in the 1989 year, 1990, sold like hotcakes. Kenner, was it Kenner Toys that was still available?
Yep.
They had the Batmobile, they had the toys, they had the action figures. Here's a little secret. They didn't have the rights to use Jack Nicholson's likeness on the Batman Joker figure for the movie. So if you bought the toy, there's a reason why it didn't look like the one in the movie, because Jack was holding out. But the packaging, I believe, had his face on the packaging. So there's a little behind the secrets. But there was controversy because Bob the Goon, for some reason, the people were up in arms about it. It was like Sam the Tramp, which would come out next year with Dick Tracy. They were like, you can't do that. That's not a good figure. And I don't know what it was about Bob the Goon. I think they said he was like a homicidal maniac. There was something about it. That figure was just pulled out of circulation, or it didn't get a lot made of it. It was just very hard to come by a Bob the Goon action figure for the Batman movie. And that's the Tracy Walter character.
I feel like that's that's
urban myth,
marketing spin by going, oh, we've got a peg warmer here. What do we do? Oh, let's
I'm pretty sure there's not a lot of Bob the Goon figures out there.
Okay. Well,
and then Sam, when we do the Dick Tracy, we'll do the whole story about Sam the Tramp and see if that's real, that they got rid of that.
Because I did find just the other day, I've got a Dick Tracy cushion. So
oh, really?
Yeah, I do. That's
well, you know what? We talk about Dick Tracy. You know what? Batman, good or bad, what the thing is, it set up such a high expectations for comic book movies that everybody wanted to do a comic book movie. If it wasn't for the 1989 Batman movie, believe it or not, we would not have the TV version of The Flash with my friend John Wesley Shipp, because when that came out, they said, what can we do to mimic this? And they made the 1991 Flash TV show, and they made the music was by Danny Elfman.
Yep, and I think Shirley Walker was also involved with that, who also did the Batman the Animated Series, which was again a riff on the movie. And well, that shared the look that the Flash.
Oh, the look, the Flash TV show. They have that weird. You didn't know what year the movie took place, even with the 1989 Batman, because the Batmobile looked futuristic, yet the cars they were driving around, the Joker's guys, were like a Dodge Plymouth or a really. And then Vicky Vale drove a Chevy Citation, because I had one of those cars. It was like a really piece of junk car. You didn't know what was going on. Like, what year is this supposed to be? Is it supposed to be the 50s, or is it supposed to be modern day or whatever? There was really no idea what was going on there.
It did win an Oscar. I think it won the Oscar for production design. It and rightly so. It was pretty spectacular. And really, that's the first time you saw, like again, not in spandex or
that leather
satin, it was all
latex,
latex and vinyl. Batman couldn't move his neck.
He couldn't move his neck. No, not at all.
But that's got that good hero reveal. You actually get to see him move and do that.
Yeah, with the whole close-up thing. Sadly, the beautifully designed futuristic sets of Gotham City by Anton Furst, he tragically commits suicide not soon after the movie opens up. So the set designer Anton Furst killed himself. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, he jumped off a building. It was really sad. I don't know what was his backstory, but everybody just raved about the look of it. In fact, they even adapted the look of Gotham City into the comic books to mimic the look of Gotham City with the large towers, the Gothic architecture and all that. That was really something to see, because the look of that movie was also very unique for its time as well.
I mean, I think it did for superheroes what Blade Runner did for futuristic films, movies as well. So there's lots to like in Batman 89. Obviously, it had the sequel in 91. I think Batman Returns, which was quite different and dark.
No, it was 1992.
Was it 92? Okay.
It was June 18th, 1992, because I got engaged on that weekend. So there you go.
And I remember remember that date because of the engagement, right? Not because of the movie.
No, because after we got engaged, I came back and I went to go see Batman that Sunday, because I got engaged on a Friday, and Batman opened that day.
The important thing is, how many tickets for that did you bootleg?
Well, Ed, come on. Ed, you know what's so sad?
What's those FBI lights going on?
I remember significant dates in my life. My son was born when the Last Action Hero opened up with with
Arnold
no,
Schwarzenegger.
I'm off schedule. I'm off
Oh,
schedule now. I'm sorry. He was born when Godzilla with Matthew Broderick opened up.
yeah.
So there, the Last Action Hero, I believe, was on my wedding anniversary, my first wedding in '93.
And the first date with my future wife, May the 19th,
Would be
1999.
the Phantom Menace.
That's right.
See, that's
Yeah.
how we live our lives, man. By the movies. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? But
That's
no,
it.
I mean Batman's Batman, and it's inspired even to this day. 30 years later, I've got a lovely Lego Batmobile that took me forever to put together. I've got a Lego Bat Wing that I got for Christmas that I put together. I don't think there's any of the Bat stuff left from that movie that they haven't made.
Not
You
yet.
know?
I'm sure they'll make probably a Bat Cave or something like that. We've got obviously more Michael Keaton Batman to look forward to because he's going to be appearing alongside Ben Affleck and
Yes.
Ezra Miller in
And Ezra
Flash.
Miller in the new Flash movie, Flashpoint. Yeah. But we talked about you briefly mentioned, yes, the Batman series movie was so impressive. They did make the sequel, which wasn't as successful, but it did inspire the Bruce Timm animated show that went on for years, the Batman animated series, which had the look of the film
Yes.
and also had Danny Elfman doing the music score. So it was all kind of connected there. So
That's
there
right.
you go.
Was it I think Shirley Walker, I think, was also involved with that as well, who worked closely with Danny Elfman. So that's great. You know, you can get those. They're available on are they
the
available
movie?
on I'm thinking the animated series. They're available
Oh, the
on,
animated series, yeah, they get a beautiful box set that just
Yep.
came out a couple years ago. But the thing of it is too, if you have HBO Max, all the Batman movies are on there, all the Batman animated series are on there, everything you could imagine
Yep.
is out there. And you know what? There was a video game. I'm pretty sure they
It
had
was
a
on
Batman.
the NES.
Yeah. So that was a cool thing that came out at its time too. So
Yeah, that was pretty
do you
good.
remember
And-
I was gonna say the drive-through. They had Batman going up to a McDonald's drive-through because there was Batman toys that came out. This is for Batman Returns, and that's also a big
They
problem.
were in Australia because I just sold a set of them at our shop. They were pen
Oh.
toppers. You got the Penguin,
Okay.
you got Catwoman, you got Batman, and you got the Batmobile.
Yeah.
And
But no,
but
it
was that
was-
McDonald's or it was McDonald's.
We had
I remember
McDonald's
there was
toys here.
one-
Yeah,
there was one
McDonald's had the little the duck. I remember that the Penguin
yes.
rode for there. This is actually a brand new toy that just came out. It's only like $15. It's at Walmart. It's a replica of the Batarang, but look at that. It folds up.
That's quite
I'm just-
cool.
Look at that. That's pretty cool.
It is.
I'm just showing it because I'm surprised they made it. And it came out. And look, it has its own little bat holder. You
Oh,
put it in
that's
there.
good.
Yeah, for $19. That's not a bad little Batman toy. So
It's
Batman
funny,
never goes away.
they're happy to let that through, but a deadly weapon. But Bob the Goon,
No, we can't have Bob the Goon. And don't forget, there was even Batman cereal that came with a Batman bang. Look at that, Michael Keaton. Dun, 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 dun. And if you want to watch how this tastes, like Ed mentioned earlier, go back and watch
yeah,
Mitch and Ed's show when I ate that horrible Batman cereal. But
that's right.
that's about it. I mean, trading cards, you name it, anything you could imagine. School supplies, underwear,
board
posters,
games,
games, and the legend is that Jack Nicholson made the most money out of everybody involved because he got a cut of all the merchandising. I think at the time, now we talk about Robert Downey Jr., but there was some crazy number that Nicholson made like over 50 or 60 million dollars
Yes.
from the Batman merchandise from the movie. So I mean, I don't think he really had to work much after that because he was set for life,
Well, after that he did A Few Good Men in '92, and he kept going on, and doing a film every few years. But I think he could live off Batman. I suppose a lot of the actors could if they chose to. And it's still reaping benefits for Michael Keaton, who, as we said, is coming back, so many years after. I think it's going to be fantastic to see his take on Batman. It's really interesting. We were just saying with they just released, the director released a shot of Batman's chest plate with
Chest plate,
it was either blood or you said
or jelly, or
Yeah, that's
raspberry
right.
jam on it. Maybe it was a jelly donut.
Yeah.
Hey, you didn't say how you found the film. Did you go see it in the theaters?
I
Did you like
did,
it?
and I actually, again, I felt a bit guilty because I was thinking, well, Indiana Jones, why isn't
Yeah.
Indiana Jones did phenomenally,
Oh
that
yeah, it was
year,
fantastic.
and I really
movie.
enjoyed Ghostbusters too, and then we were spoiled for choice at the movies, even Star Trek 5, which I kind of enjoyed as well, so
Yeah, it's some
I enjoyed it,
marshmallows.
but I probably felt it was a little bit too dark, and I,
Yeah.
being a child of Superman the movie, I was expecting something a little bit,
Cheerier, happier.
yeah, a little
Yeah.
bit happier. I look, I enjoyed it, and I did, collect the toys and things like that. I felt like probably I had to,
Yeah.
because everyone else was, but I did enjoy it, and I think the main thing was the score and the production design. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed. So I didn't see, I saw it a few times at the movies that year, and I went to see every other Batman after
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Wasn't that big a fan of Batman Returns.
See, I like Batman Returns. Not a lot of people don't. I like the look of Batman Returns. I mean, it's that Tim Burton bluish white icy
Christmas,
look that he does.
and
The
we do
Christmas,
speak
yeah.
about that in our Christmas special, actually.
Yeah, I did
Yeah,
bring that up because that's a Christmas movie. It takes place
Yeah.
there because Burton, he did that with Edward Scissorhands. He did it with. Did he do Adam's Family?
No, I don't
Is that
think
him?
so.
Oh, that's Barry Sonnenfeld. One of those.
Yeah, I think that was actually, yeah, the guy did Men in Black.
Men in Black. Yeah. No, that's just he has that texture on his films. Tim
Yep.
Burton does. He has it. Batman. It's like that bluish glow, that
Yeah.
night look with like a full moon lighting the set. I just like the way it looks, and the Elfman score. I think they work together, perfectly. I'm not a big fan of the Dark Shadows movie they did. That was a little over the top.
I didn't mind that at all. Not, but
Yeah.
again, I wasn't a
You're
fan
a big
of the,
Johnny Depp fan.
I am, but I wasn't a fan of the like the original source material, so I didn't really know where it was.
Oh yeah, no, I remember my sisters watching. Here's one for you. Imagine if they redid that. They continued the series. Of course, Val Kilmer, who was
Yes.
at Terrificon 2 years ago. Imagine if they kept Burton in the director's seat as opposed to Joe Schumacher,
Yes.
and Keaton stayed around, because that's when they talked about they were going to bring back Robin,
Yep.
and it just got to be too much. And then they were going to have, another villain. They had Two-Face, they had Riddler, and yada yada yada, and it just too much. Even Howard Stern talks about how they were going to get him to be the Scarecrow at one of these films, and it was just out there, and eventually it just becomes a big joke upon itself with George Clooney in there, and the Batman franchise kind of went and died.
It did. I think, that's where the term toyetic came from, because of Batman and Robin, where they were designing.
There's too many of them. Oh my god.
And the
Arnold
thing,
Schwarzenegger. Yeah,
I think the problem is that they have too many villains in it. I think, and then that overpowers. You're not seeing Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy. You're seeing Batman and Robin. So let's see Batman and Robin. It's like in Captain America and the Winter Soldier. I want to see a bit more Captain America than the Winter Soldier, but that's just me. I mean, I think the one thing that I was disappointed with Batman was that they killed the Joker.
Yeah, I always kept thinking of a way they could bring him back. Like, oh, maybe that really wasn't him, because but how he splattered all over the road, the walkway. But they had that little bag that was still laughing. I go, oh, maybe somehow he transferred his, like the Emperor transferred his essence into a clone, or I don't know how they could have ever brought the Joker back after that fall, and he got squished there. Did you notice the animation that they use in the film twice? That always detracted me.
Yes, for the scene where he's walking with the cape.
With the cape, it was animated, so you'd see it looked like a old Disney cartoon. And at the very end, when the Joker falls, off the tower, and they're pulling back. If you look, it looks like an animated cartoon almost as it's pulling back, and Nicholson falls. I don't believe that's him. I think that was just animatronics or something.
Yeah,
like
they could have done a Alan Rickman from the Die Hard the year earlier. That would have been a little bit better, where they dropped him, but some of the effects are not great. They're a little clunky. The film's a little clunky compared to today's films, but
Oh
you know,
yeah, absolutely.
it's
What
still
did
a
you think?
good fun
What
watch.
did you think of Kim Basinger? I always thought she was like in a different movie. Like she didn't fit in well.
Yeah, yeah, she was a bit. I mean, I wasn't a super big fan. I think probably Sean Young would have actually been a little bit
I
more
know.
better.
I
She would
think
have been a better
looking
match.
back, yeah, I think she would have fitted. She had that darker, more somber look
Yeah,
to her as opposed to this big bright blonde bikini model. I was like,
yeah,
why is she here?
yeah.
She seemed like she should be in a Superman movie. You know what I mean? It's
Yes.
like everybody in that movie seemed a little shady. I mean, Robert Wall is the reporter, a little slick, the cops that were on the take, they were getting the money off to the side. Everybody in Gotham City seemed corrupt. And then suddenly you have Vicky Vale, who's like fashion model, even though she's
Yes.
supposed to be this photojournalist who goes to like war zones. It's like, really? Did you bring a hair dryer and a makeup kit with you? Because you don't look like somebody who's going to get
Yeah.
rough and ready and dirty and scuffed up. But Sean Young looks like she could have pulled that off, But
Yeah, I felt she wasn't a good foil like Margot Kidder was to
no,
Christopher
not at
Reeve. You
all.
know, I
No.
so
I wonder
uh,
why they got rid of her for the sequel. I mean, they just make a passing joke about, her not being in Batman Returns. I should,
yeah,
when Robert Wool was at my show, I should have asked him
yes.
about what happened backstage, So
Yeah, I'm be interested. I suppose again, maybe they just thought between Michael Keaton, um, Michelle Pfeiffer, and
yeah, Danny
Danny DeVito, it
DeVito.
was just
Yeah, I
getting a
don't know.
bit too crowded. And Christopher Walken as well, and
Christopher Walken was in it.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe it was just getting a bit too crowded or expensive. Maybe she asked for too much money. I don't know.
Well, she was also starting to date Alec Baldwin at that time, and
Mhm.
that was a whole weird thing going on in Hollywood because he had just come off success with The Hunt for Red October.
Yep.
And then suddenly he starts going out with Kim Basinger, and the two of them are like, yeah, there's all these Hollywood gossip. They're yelling about the movies and backstage drama and
Yep.
all that. And next thing you know, Baldwin loses the Jack Ryan roles to Harrison Ford.
Mhm.
Kim Basinger is no longer like the actress
The
in
It
all these
Girl. Yep.
movies. Yeah, the girl. Yeah. So I don't know what was going on backstage, but we'll never know. I do believe, wasn't she going out with Prince at one point? I remember when the movie premiered, I thought she showed up at the premiere of the movie with Prince.
Okay.
So I don't know. I don't know.
I
We
don't know.
No.
But you know
Anyway, overall,
what
it
movie
was a
doesn't have
phenomenon.
some controversy behind it? But it was, you're right, it was a phenomenon, and it's worth a revisit. And if you're stuck at home, what better way to put on some popcorn?
It moves pretty quick. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
it
only a
does.
2-hour movie. It doesn't slow down at all. It's pretty fun.
It is good fun. It is good fun. So you can check it out on HBO Max, or there's the 4K box set or individuals if you want to get those and see it in pristine, better than it's ever been seen before. But we like it, so we reckon, not that you care whether we like it.
No,
Or
I was
like
gonna
it,
say
but,
I think it was supposed to be on the big. It was on the big screen for the 30th anniversary. There was a week they did Batman, Batman Returns, Batman Forever, and I think they did Batman and Robin. It was around the country that you can go
Yep.
for like one night only. They had them. They had all the Batman movies shown, which is a disappointment because now looking back, I would have seen it on the big screen again. It's been a while,
Yep.
So,
And with
yeah.
digital projection these days, you'll probably get to see a little bit more and won't have to squint so much, which is good.
And I'm going to mention this real quick.
Yeah.
There is a Batman 89 comic book sequel coming out this summer, August, September, around there, done by an artist named Joe Quinones. But my friend Jerry Ordway is doing the covers for that book as well. And the first story happens to be Billy D. Williams as Two-Face.
Excellent.
So they do an adaptation. So Jerry drew what might have been what Billy D. Williams would have looked like if he became the Two-Face character. So look for that this summer at your local comic book store.
We'll have to check it out. That's all good. And if you are interested in hearing us talk a bit more about anything pop culture, let us know in the comments. We really appreciate it, and we do reply to all your comments. We appreciate your input. But if you want to find out a little bit more about the show or get notifications, how can you do that, Mitch?
Well, it's as simple as pulling a giant gun out and blowing the bat plane out of the sky, Ed, by hitting a button right below us, and you'll be alerted like the bat signal whenever Ed and I go on another YouTube excellent adventure into movies and TV shows of the past.
That's right. Who knows where we'll end up next episode, but we're going to head back to Gotham for a little bit more and maybe watch Batman again this afternoon. But that's it for the show. Thanks so much for watching. This is Ed Dollister.
And I'm Batman.
No, I'm Batman.
Well,
and
I'm
I will
Batman.
say, we're not doing that whole thing again, are we?
No,
Oh
no,
my
no,
God.
no, 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 no.
All right, and we'll see you
I'm
next
Mitch
time.
Halleck.
Yeah.
Bye.
See ya.